Get ready, Cheekies Chicks. It is episode number 6, and you're about to hear from the boss lady herself, Jessi Roberts, the president and resident boss lady at Cheekies. Let's talk about your business, strategy, and the juicy details of what actually works, from mainstream fashion to fashion on Main Street, and the entire ecosystem behind it. How do we scale your company and do it with the balance and the happiness that we all seek? Let's hear from those insiders, experts, and strategists that actually make it happen. I'm your host, Ashley Alderson from the Boutique Hub, and I can't wait to chat. As you are listening this week, we just wrapped up International Women's Day. Whoop whoop to the ladies who are listening. So this week, I wanted to start out with a nod to the ladies. But before I do, I also believe that although we celebrate the women, I want to thank the men in our lives who also deserve a pat on the back along the way. And I don't want to leave them out of this important holiday because I think they have a role to play. So while we've had some great guys on the show so far, and we have many more scheduled to join us soon, our business, we know, is connected with both men and women. And oftentimes it's the men who are our peers, our friends, our brothers, our fathers, or our partners and spouses who also help support our business and give us that nudge that we need just at the right time. They can cheer us on and lend us an ear when we need it the most. So I just want to say thank you for helping us follow our big ideas and to crush our goals as women. It takes great men to also help encourage this new age of women who are taking action in business. In fact, you're going to hear today on the show just how supportive this husband was to encourage our guest to begin creating her very own empire. It was actually his words of encouragement that helped her take that very first step. In my own household, my husband Eric has also played a critical role along the way, and I'm sure you guys can relate. From the moments of simply smiling and nodding when there weren't any words necessary, or maybe it's because they wouldn't have been received well by yours truly, to helping me talk through big ideas, and even those times when he balanced me out and frankly told me what I didn't want to hear. He's definitely played a huge role in my life and in the creation of this business. And maybe for you, there's a man who helped you take that first step. Maybe there wasn't. Maybe it was just you wanting to create a life better than what you'd known before, having more freedom and the ability to create the future that you wanted, regardless of who was there supporting you or not. And that is totally cool. I am with you 100%. So ladies, I want to lift my cup to you in honor of International Women's Day and give you the cheers that you definitely deserve. I want to give you the high five to tell you that, girl, you are not alone at the end of a 5-day, no hair washing, sweatpant wearing binge so that you can accomplish that next big goal. I want to be here to cheer you on through the next late night that you use to build something big. And I want to lift you up for the moments that when you're done wiping away someone else's tears, that you go home only to wipe away your own when no one else is looking. I want to encourage you that you do not have to go get a boring job just to play it safe or to stay home with the kids just to avoid daycare. You truly can create your own schedule and be fulfilled at the same time. And I want to thank you for the impression that you have left on someone else's life who simply walked through your store's doorway. And your words of encouragement and the way that you served her truly changed her esteem and her outlook on life. So ladies, this one really is for you. Cheers to you and the boutique bosses. Happy International Women's Day. This week's guest has a lot to say on this topic. She actually got started in a man's world, and it was a crucial conversation that she had with her husband that led her away from that environment and into what she could have never imagined would turn into something so big. Today, this woman leads others, lots of others. She and her 30 employees work together to shape their rural community by offering careers where there were none. She's built a brand that engages 1 to 2 million people a week on Facebook, and has been given the designation from Facebook as a group power admin. Along with retail sales, she's had a massive wholesale manufacturing operation, including apparel, jewelry, and accessories, that's shared with now 1,500 plus stores worldwide. And her business does support other small businesses with their subscription boxes and joint marketing efforts. You are going to find out that she is raw, she is real, and if she isn't cracking a joke, which you are definitely about to hear, or sharing her own lessons that she's learned the hard way, she's enjoying her family and her 4 children. This time next year, you're also going to be able to read her book. And she's sharing her personal life and her journey to overcome several personal obstacles, along with her business's growth to help reach men and women who resonate with her lifestyle and the definition of a Cheeky's chick. Guys, I'm so excited to bring on this week's guest, Jessi Roberts, the president and resident boss lady at Cheeky's. Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast this week. I can't wait to introduce you to this guest because it is the one and only, the boss lady herself from Cheeky's, Jessi Roberts. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hello.
Hey, so it is the tundra, both where you're at and where I'm at today. So I just want to know how you're surviving right now.
Well, it actually is the tundra. We just tell people that so that they don't move here. I mean, we have all 4 seasons and it's fabulous. So as soon as you're tired of one season, Idaho is pretty amazing and it moves on to the next one, unlike the West Texas desert that I grew up in. So it isn't intolerable. How's that?
I like it. So you only keep the riffraff out during the winter months and then it's pleasant.
That's right.
That. Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, we have so much to talk about. You and I were chatting before we got started on the show here just about the gazillion, if that's a real number, different topics we could cover in this show and the rabbit holes that we could go down, because I know we're both so passionate about a number of topics. And you've got such an amazing story to share. So where I want to get started today is I want to start before Cheeky's. I would love to hear about your world and how the very first t-shirts from the Cheeky's brand got started, because you were kind of a woman living in a man's world, so to speak, and then made this awesome transition. Tell me about that.
Oh, man, I don't know if it's super interesting, but I'll do my very best. It wasn't even interesting to me. So I spent most of my adult life in the automotive industry. I started out selling cars as a single mom, and it was actually a really great industry as far as income goes. It allowed me to put my son in private school. It allowed me to have all the things that I didn't get to have as a kid growing up available to him. However, it also didn't allow me a lot of time with him either. And so as I grew up in the car business, I became a sales manager and specialized in subprime finance and buy here, pay here. I worked on takeover teams for dealerships that were failing. And all the while, I was always looking for how to be different than the average car salesman. And even as a manager, I wanted to be different. I wanted to educate myself. And I started multiple different advertising opportunities when I was younger. So lots of business to business stuff, things with the Boise Chamber of Commerce. And actually in like the early 2000s, I was one of the youngest recipients for the Idaho's 40 Under 40 Award, which is the most 40 accomplished individuals in the state under 40.
Awesome.
So that's I have my own little private drummer over here that rallies for me.
I've been waiting for all the dynamite drop-ins because I know there's going to be a lot of them in this episode. We'll just prepare everybody now. So were you were in Idaho at that time, but you were also working in the automotive industry in Texas before you came to Idaho, or was it when you?
I did, yeah. I actually started out at a Saturn dealership in Texas, and I love the Saturn company. It's a shame it's not around anymore, but I learned a lot of valuable lessons from the fall of the Saturn line, and they just didn't grow fast enough with their customer. And so I actually transferred with Saturn up to Idaho. And it was the most beautiful place I'd ever seen. So it really wasn't hard. They kind of tricked me and had me come in April when there were like flowers and trees and stuff. I moved up here And after I had my twins, because I have 4 children, and my twins are 12, I actually moved back to Texas and went back to work for the automotive group that I originally got into the car business with, and ran dealerships for them in Texas.
Awesome. So how
So,
was that transition to this idea of Cheekies and the first line of t-shirts that came out?
well, my husband's probably going to kill me for saying this, but I got married to Justin about 12 years ago, right when the twins were born. And we had this Texas sabbatical for a couple of years, and he really struggled down there. He was used to the mountains and the trees and just how beautiful it was in Idaho. Texas was really a culture shock to him. So we moved back to Idaho for him. And when we got up here, he was this farm boy that just really liked the idea of not having a wife in a man's world. He didn't really want me doing something like that. He didn't like having me work 70, 80 hours a week and constantly be around all of these guys that really sometimes weren't the highest quality. And so he asked me to consider doing other things. And we actually ran a coatings company together and did industrial coatings and bomb proofing for a couple of years until the economy collapsed. And when it collapsed, we kind of had nothing. So I decided I had to make an income. I had to do something. And I didn't want to take these 4 kids and pull them out of my life again for 70, 80 hours a
Mhm.
week. So I thought, what does my little tiny 1,400 people population town need? And it really needed a laundromat, and I thought that sucked. So I was like, well, they don't have anything here for women at all. There was nothing in my town for a girl. No salons, no nothing. We had a 3-aisle grocery store. We have no stoplights. We have 2 bars and 400 churches. And so I thought, why not open up a store with stuff that girls would want to buy? And so that's what I did. I rented a little teeny tiny abandoned place on our little desolate ghost town strip. And it cost me about $400 a month. So I knew I needed to make, $15, $20 a day and then enough for groceries. And I took every little bit of money that Justin and I had and I bought some inventory and I just did it.
So it started more as a boutique, as a retail location, and then began to grow into so much more. Talk about the salon and all the other pieces that started to be added. And then where did the brand come from?
Well, anybody who's been in a small town, they know a lot of these buildings are really long and narrow. So I had like this little front part, and I had heard that there had been a boutique in town once before. I didn't know anyone in this town. I mean, no one, except for my husband and my kids. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, I have a nail lady in Boise. Maybe she'll come out here and do nails. So I got a salon license and I gave her a spot. And I kept building backwards. Like I would have my husband remove the back wall and build out and then go again. And then finally, when we were about 3/4 of the way back in this building, he was like, no more. Like, just like he's like, there's brick there now. And I was like, there's not brick there. And he's like, no, there is. Like, you're not allowed to build back anymore. So um when we first started making shirts, it was really funny. I was outsourcing. I had a couple of crazy ideas for shirts, some of them not so smart. And I had another company make them for me, and I didn't like the margins on that. So I told my husband that he needed to figure out how to print the shirts for me. Well, I didn't really realize everything that went into doing it. So we just rented a storage unit behind the building. We had no running water. We had no ventilation. I mean, the ink was literally drying in the screens. Somebody would walk in and be like, well, you don't have this in a large. And I'd be like, oh, just give us like 20 minutes. And my poor husband would go back and print the shirts for me. He was a good man. He is a good man, but he was really good then. So yeah, I did a lot of, just like, I think a lot of girls out there, I did a lot of rodeos. I did a lot of stock shows. festivals and stuff like that. And I just got tired of every single thing that was there all looked the same, and it was a price war. And in the car business, I felt like that's how it was there. You know, all the dealerships came together. They all had the same cars. It was whoever was selling them the cheapest. And so I thought, I don't want to do that. I don't want to sell them the cheapest. I want to sell them affordably, and I want it to be something that they feel like maybe they couldn't get somewhere else.
Absolutely. You've got such unique designs today. They crack me up. Like so many of them are such great humor. I want to know, what was the very first design?
So the very first design was Every Girl Loves a Dirty Cowboy, I think. And the first big mistake design was one that said Cowboys Lie. And because they do, I think you could probably appreciate that. I I have this saying, I married a farm boy, and I would take a farm boy over a cowboy any day because my farm boy isn't chasing a rodeo and he's home for dinner every night. And he can fix
Mhm.
anything, right? So I made this shirt that says Cowboys Lie, and I put 2 stars on it. Well, you can guess where the 2 stars ended up.
Oh no.
And I didn't realize it until I had printed it. But luckily, I sold a lot of them at the Caldwell Night Rodeo and mostly to bartenders. But it just some designs are good and some are bad. But the first real winning design for us, the one that just like knocked it out of the park, I was terrified of posting. I'm in an extremely religious LDS area. I did not realize how far my reach was outside of my area. I thought that it was more local. And we did the shirt that says, "Don't bullshit me, darling." And I posted it on Facebook, fully expecting to maybe delete it very quickly in case people were saying, "I can't believe you're
Mhm.
cussing. I can't believe you have that on there." I was really nervous about upsetting people. And I put it online, and it just like the notifications just started going off. It was like crazy. And like within the first hour, we had like 20 that had sold, which was really shocking. And then it was just like sharing and sharing and sharing. And I think that original post has seen almost 6 million
Oh
people
my
on
goodness.
Facebook now. It has like over 100,000 million jillion, if that's a word, shares. So, yeah, it was just crazy.
What
It
was
just blew
Justin
up.
doing at this time?
And
Was he back in the storage unit going like, girl, you are in trouble?
so that it definitely, we had actually already moved out of the storage unit at that point in time. Um, we currently have 6 locations, all in a 4-mile radius. So we grew so fast that we just kept like we took over the old pharmacy, the old post office, the old Elks Lodge, the old Subway, anything that was available, we would just take it over. And right now we have a warehouse that is being built, and it can't get done soon enough, but we do have to wait for the ground to not be frozen. And it'll be just under 25,000 square foot. And hopefully we'll have everything in one location except for our retail store. So, yeah, he got to printing. I moved my dad up from Texas. My dad started printing. We went from printing, like 5 or 6 hours a day to printing like 10
Mhm.
hours a day. We finally about well, we owned a new press for a little over a year, and it is the largest. It's called a rock. So it's made by Ryanette, which is like anybody who's in screen printing knows that Ryanette is the bee's knees, I guess you could say, in screen printing. We bought the prototype for Nike, and we owned it for over a year because our little downtown, we had exceeded all of the electrical, the weight for the building, it would have fallen through the floor. So we had to actually build a separate building at our home just for that
Wow.
press. It's worth more than my house. So I guess, Justin's like George and Wheezy, and he's moving on up. So he's got what he
What's he
needs
going to do
now.
when you guys are all in the same building and you can like echo across the building and all be in the same spot?
I don't think there'll be an echo. It's pretty cool. We have a really great friend who was an architect that designed it. It's really important to me to not have our building stick out. I think that's something I learned from Saturn. When Saturn built their facility, they actually built it in a valley and painted it the color of the sky. And they bought all the property around their property, so that like seedy businesses couldn't move in, like strip
Mhm.
clubs and restaurants and things like that. We actually have painstakingly designed this building to look like a vintage barn, and so that it does not stick out, because in a community this size, a 20 to
Mhm.
25,000 square foot facility is
Yeah.
going to stick out. So I'm really excited to see that. And there are a lot of rooms inside of it for social media, for designers. It does have the supply and warehouse portion, but it our offices won't are at opposite ends of the building, which I think is smart for any
I
marriage.
second that. I like that. So you're together, but there's still some independence. Perfect.
We currently work across the street from one another.
Good.
So
Lunch dates. I like it. When you were
right.
going through that period and that first shirt went viral and things began to scale really quickly, did you feel like at that time, like, did you ever have some really deep doubts or fears that you felt like, okay, I need to like saddle up, cowgirl, because I'm going to the rodeo. Like there ain't no turning back now.
I feel like Justin, when he stopped doing side jobs and Cheeky's became his biggest customer, I think that was really scary for both of us. And he is a volunteer firefighter, and he was an EMT, and he really put a lot of those things on the back burner because Cheeky's just took
Mm-hmm.
up so much of his time. I think that was, nerve wracking, but I have made a lot of mistakes. Like, I could literally write 6 books just on mistakes. And so I think there were lots of times when I was like, what the F am I
Mm-hmm.
doing? You know, but I'm also not a quitter. I'm just not. I have a hard time giving up on relationships. I have a hard time giving up on things I believe in. There was a lot of crying, and there was a lot of, okay, I need to sell all of these things. My husband's probably only sold every tractor that we've ever bought him 20 times, every camper, every boat. We drove cars with 300,000 miles on them because we had payroll to make, or because I thought I could take the $1,500 that I could get out of that little boat and I could turn that into, $20,000 if you just let me spend it. That was kind of scary, knowing that everybody really depended on me. It's still scary
Absolutely.
today.
So
Yes.
today, Cheeky's had some pretty amazing accomplishments and quite a story to back it up. You've got a Facebook page that engages 1 to 2 million people a week. A week, awesome. You have a
Right.
designation by Facebook to be kind of in a special group of leaders, right? A power group admin, which means you get to oversee some of the things that are coming to groups on Facebook because of the engagement rate that you carry
Right.
in your groups. You have both a retail and wholesale business. You have subscription boxes, and you have a book coming out next year, and you've been featured in Inc. and are going to be featured by Inc. again. So we've kind of gone over, you and I, just this list of accomplishments and what that means because it's pretty remarkable. But the thing that I admire
Thank
about
you.
you and that you mentioned to me was, of all of those things, the most important accomplishment to you was the fact that you get to employ other families. Can you talk about what that means as you've watched this growth
Yes.
unfold and where it is today?
Well, I think earlier in the podcast, I mentioned that a bunch of the people that I worked with in the car business weren't the greatest, but a bunch of the people that I worked in the car business were pretty freaking amazing. And I had a mentor for many, many years in the car business, and he really instilled in me the importance of what it means to actually be a boss and what it means to be an owner or to have ownership over other people's lives. And he would constantly remind us as managers each day that if we didn't do our job, that we had to choose the person who was in our charge to let go. Who are you going to fire today if you decide not to work? And it was extremely intense, and it made a mark on me. And it made me realize what was really important to me. I have said this to you before, but I feel like true success isn't building a house that's bigger than my neighbor's, but it's being able to offer my neighbor a job
Mm.
so they can buy their own house. I don't want to buy all the drinks when we go out. I want everybody to be able to. And when you talk about that community of cooperation versus competitiveness, to me, that's what that's about. I want everyone to sell cars. I want everyone to be able to sell t-shirts. I want everybody to be able to have their boutique. But ultimately, I want to be able to take care of as many people as I can and know that they can have all the things that they want if I go to work every day.
Man, I feel like I have to repeat a piece of what you just said. Who are you going to fire today if you decide not to work? Everything about what you just said speaks volumes. That's amazing. And you've done that just in the spirit of being so genuine, genuine as a boss and as a leader. And that shines through not only to your team, but to your followers as well, to these women that you call Cheeky's chicks.
Right. And I think you really hit the nail on the head. For me, it's about creating that super fan. I feel like we were really innovators in that, and that we have worked desperately and hard and every single opportunity that we have with a customer to create a connection. So when I read through some of the questions that we could be asked, and it asked about who was our ideal customer, my ideal customer isn't necessarily, Caucasian, middle class, age 23 to 34, whatever. It's that woman that wants to connect on some level with someone else, and that she might have a rural lifestyle close to her. I mean, we sell in New York City as well, but I want to have an opportunity to create a relationship. And we do that with our vendors. We do that with the people that we manufacture with, our factories. We do it with our neighbors, anybody. So when I see people talk about, just tell that customer blah blah blah. Well, that doesn't work in our building. Okay, you're I will go to the ends of the earth to make sure that customers feel like we exceeded their expectations. Is that costly? Yes, it is. But in the same fold, my Facebook ad returns are huge. My following and engagement are huge because we spend that money there instead of in marketing, if that makes sense. So my goal is to create a relationship every single opportunity that we have. We only have about 400,000 people that follow us on Facebook. And I know that I said only, and there's a million girls that are like, really? Only? But I've been working on that since 2011. And there are lots of girls that started when I started, and they have millions that follow them. But just like Brandon said in his podcast, go to their page and look and see how
Mhm.
many comments, likes, and shares are on their most recent posts. If I don't have engagement on a post, there's a full meltdown over here. Like, what did we do wrong? How did we not impress them with that? How was that not genuine enough? How did we not connect? How can we make a change next time? Every comment that is made by a customer, we try to respond to. Every private message, they get a genuine response. As little form mails or messages as we can spend, we do. So it took me 7 years to get
Mhm.
400,000 followers, right? And those followers now love us. They get angry with Facebook. They get mad if they aren't shown everything or they can't get everything. So instead of worrying about unsubscribes from emails, we put our efforts in
Absolutely.
to different
It
ways. Does
does.
that make sense? Sorry, I rabbit holed there for you, but I just think it's really important that girls understand that if you don't have a budget, then stop wasting the opportunities that are in front of you. I tell my girls all the time that you have to earn the right to ask for more customers. So if you're not taking care of the customers that you currently have, then you don't have the
Oh,
right
that's
to
so
ask for
good.
new ones.
So good. People want to do business with people, right? And that's this entire model you've built it on.
Right.
You mentioned to anyone listening who doesn't have a budget, what does that look like, do you think, in terms of key mechanisms? How do you plan out that social media every week? Is there like a checklist you go through in your head, both of what you're going to post, but the key components to make those things the most genuine they possibly can be? And same with your live videos, because those kill it for the same reason. What's that process look like?
I feel like I've told you before, I feel like a lot of my answers may not be the same as my peers, but we don't plan the same way that other people do. I'm very conscious of making sure that I live in the present, both with my business and in my personal life. So I feel like it's very difficult to be genuine when you are practicing or preparing. Now, that doesn't mean that we haven't had some downright terrible videos. And heavens, we get really out of line sometimes. They take a hard left or right. But we prepare in 3 to 4 day increments. We have some things that are down the road, like we have the thing coming up with Inc. where we're going to take over their Snapchat for a week. Well, sure, you have to put that on your calendar, but have we thought about like every little thing that's going to get posted? No. We've seen that as Facebook has changed its algorithms, that sometimes it takes 2 days for people to see a post. So our sales now run 3 to 4 days. We do things based off of how Facebook is allowing us to work. Now, is Facebook the only way that we market or advertise? No. Is there a checklist? There are some checklists when it comes to subscription boxes and things like that. But for the most part, we just do what the customers ask us to. Mm-hmm. We listen all the time. What works for you? What makes you happy? What can I provide for you so that you want to spend your money with me? That's the best advice I can give them. I know that probably doesn't work for the OCD folks out there. And one of our girls, Audrey, I know that we drive her crazy because we're going to Vegas. She's had her bags packed for 2 weeks. So I'm like, hey, we need to get the laundry done. I've got to pack. And we're leaving in an hour.
Once. I like it. Your live videos, I've got to go back to this for a second because you guys have like a joke book on your desk, don't you? That you got this random process for your videos. You got to talk about that.
We do. So we actually change it up every now and then. We have the joke calendar because it was a gift from one of our customers. Speaking about making a connection, I think one of the things that just really blew me away is sometimes I forget just how much they love and appreciate us. This Christmas, we actually did a live Christmas party with our customers. They sent in presents that it took, I think, Rachel and I almost an hour and a half to open. But they sent us presents and they came in live with us and watched us open the gifts that they sent us. Now, we encouraged them to send us stuff from small businesses that were local to them so that we could actually see the product and potentially include them in our line or in our subscription box so that we could still try to find a way to connect with other small businesses out there. But we do things that engage. So the jokes, for me, when I see live videos and the girls are fixing their hair or talking about people coming into the video, that's really weird to me. I don't think that people like watching that. So if you want them to respond as soon as that notification comes up, then you better be performing from the very beginning. They want to see something. So that was really fun. We also have been doing some quizzes lately based off of Facebook's analytics, asking them which is our customer's favorite fan or restaurant or whatever. And it gets the comments going, it gets them engaged, and they get to win a little swag bag from us if they're the first one to guess right. So yeah, I think it's just important to be engaging from the very beginning and stop looking around and taking a drink of your drink or whatever. That's just weird. Nobody wants to watch that. So
I like it. I've seen some screenshots that you guys have shared of like some of your best moments from the live videos, and they're hysterical. So if anyone listening hasn't watched your live videos yet, this is your cue that you can't miss what's going on over there. How do you?
Yeah, We kind of think that maybe we should do a YouTube channel that does like product reviews because Rachel and I get a little crazy sometimes. And it was really scary. I know there's so many girls that are like, I just can't do it. Well, I have anxiety too. I mean, major anxiety. I'm not a size 4 anymore. There's other digits in my size now, and I'm 40 plus years old. And so, like, those things are really nerve wracking. And so I get it. But, once you start connecting with them, they start telling you how they feel about you. And if you can make them matter to you, then you're going to matter to them.
How do you translate that into a brand new customer acquisition strategy? This is so good for retention and keeping your fans happy. Do you find that you grow most through word of mouth? Or can you take that same idea and put it into Facebook ads to bring new people into your community?
I think we do. I think that we have tried to be something that's important
Mhm.
to me is kind, brutal honesty. And I feel like because we try to do that not only in our ads, but we did do it in our store. It was something I learned when I was selling cars is when you pay attention to what it is that people want and you genuinely listen, then they'll give you the cues that you need to be able to show them what it is that they
Mhm.
want to see that makes them open up their pocketbook, right? We have in our ads, we make sure that people know because we're knocked off all the time by Fairy Season and Wish and all those other companies, but that are importing from overseas. And I don't mean just kind of knocked off. They steal our pictures. They do all of that. So we make sure in our ads that we say, I even write it in Chinese. I say that we are not online pirates, that it ships from small town USA. We make sure that our posts, we don't do very many skinny blonde girls. If I have a blonde girl in my post, no offense, Ashley, but she's a plus size. Our blondes are plus size. Our brunettes are thinner. We try really hard to make sure that our customer can actually look at an item and say, I would wear that. One of the biggest accomplishments I think I've had with Cheekies is sometimes I'll reach out to my customers and say, it's been a hard day. Like, tell me what you love about this, or tell me, give me some love. I need it. And they'll give it, right? And they'll say to me, I never thought that I could truly love a clothing company, but I love how I feel when I wear your stuff. I love that you've thought about the fact that I need the shirt a little bit longer and that a body changes when she moves into a plus size. I like having women tell me that they have never felt confident until they started wearing my stuff. That
Mhm.
Man, that moves me. That makes me feel like I've accomplished something because there's somebody out there that I've never even met that I've made a difference in their life. Like, that's winning. I don't care how big your house is. I don't care how many cars you own or if they're fancy brands. If you can't move people and you can't make a difference, then you really don't matter. Like, you don't. That would be my encouragement to girls, that no matter where you're at in your size, that you're doing something with each opportunity that you have to make somebody feel something and feel good.
I just can't even like drop the mic hard enough after what you just said. So you just go ahead and drop the mic while you're at it. Let's talk about when people ask you about manufacturing. I know you and I have visited about this topic a little bit. I think whether it's retail or manufacturing or any piece of this business, sometimes from the outside, people see success and they feel like it looks easy. I could do that. What do you think are the biggest challenges when it comes to people starting
Sure.
out, and how do you help them overcome when people reach out and ask you those questions about the realities of this business?
So I really love this question. I feel like I've answered it on the hub about 1,000 times, and I'll probably answer it at least 1 to 2,000 more times until, maybe we can just give them a link to the podcast. But you and I have discussed this before, and I feel like people first really need to understand that manufacturing and designing are probably not what they think they are. Okay. There is not this magic person that has all these fancy swatch books that they put in front of you, and somebody sews and turns around and you tell them take it in here or switch to that pretty fabric over there. It's not like that. Okay. It is extremely expensive. It is extremely time consuming. I'm still working those 70 to 80 hours, but I'm working them oftentimes until about 3 o'clock in the morning because I'm dealing with China, I'm dealing with India, I'm dealing with Korea, and I am buying in the thousands. I have samples that are blanks alone because we don't print on a shirt that's made by somebody else. We actually have our shirts manufactured for us because I'm tall and I'm chesty and I've had 4 kids. I want my shirt to cover the areas that I'm worried about. So I worked for 2 years with my staff to create a shirt that changes as you grow in size. I've had $180,000, $200,000 mistakes. I mean, that I'm still paying on, that I'm still fixing. And yet I'm like, I wish I could come out with 100 new designs every single month, but it's just not physically possible. And so lots of times on the hub, I see people go, I can't believe there's another boutique opening up in my town,
Yeah.
or, I mean, you hear it all the time, right? But I kind of feel like people are that way with wholesale. They're like, oh, you know what? I see people ordering. It's like that, you know, um, insanity that you were talking about in the Discount Divas podcast. They just want to win. They see all these orders of people going, oh, I want that t-shirt. Could you make me, 4, 4, 4, 4? And you really just cut your margins in half. That's not impressive, right? And then what happens is you have somebody who is super creative and they create something, and then we're
Mhm.
like piranhas, the buyers. That's what I'm saying now. We're buying it all up. And then these poor girls that are trying to do this stuff in their garage or in their small space, they're overloaded. And
Mhm.
our expectations for them are just unrealistic, and they buckle
Mhm.
because they can't handle that influx. And it's not fair. We start, I see so many girls pre-selling all of those things that these wonderful creative artisans are making. And then when the artist can't produce 1,000 overnight, then you're mad at them because you pre-sold it and your customer lost, like, I'm going to
Mhm.
lose this customer. Nah, girl, you made the mistake. So for me, I feel like everybody thinks, oh, I'll just cut out the middleman. I'll go to the next one. I'll go to the next one. But I got to tell you, I've put
Mhm.
every penny back into this so that we can manufacture. Like, that has been what we do. And it ain't easy. It is not for everyone. It isn't about hustling. It is about doing without. It is about driving a car that is nicknamed the Eucalade because it's half Yukon, half Escalade, and has 300,000 miles on it, because you would rather buy 2,000 sequin pocket t-shirts in blush pink than drive a Lexus. I encourage most girls who message me, they need to really reconsider it. And it isn't because I don't want competitors. It's because I don't want to see them broken. I don't want to see them go through some of this stuff. I do not know, honestly, how we have made it this far. One of my great friends and is Keith Haviland from Yellowfin, and his wife Deanna. She's my data coach, and she and her husband tell me all the time, they're like, you've already done the hard part. And I was like, oh, what is that? Like, what's the hard part? And they're like, creating what you have right now to what it is. Like, that 7 years, that's the hard part. I can't honestly tell you that there is a book or there is a way or there's a path to do this. I mean, you don't need to be told to hustle, right? You don't need to be told to work hard.
Mhm.
But it isn't just about that. It's so much more. If all these little things hadn't laid into place to where they were, I wouldn't be where I am.
So many good things. Do you feel like when these women come in and these conversations that you're having with them about the realities of the business, um, and those moments that happen when they get started and they're pre-selling or they're just trying to keep up with orders, all these pieces. Do you think that ties into kind of the next layer of this conversation, which is IP concerns and this copyright issue that's happening in the industry today? Do you think all of that is just everyone trying to get started but not understanding the bigger picture always?
I do. I think just like you were saying that it's a bubble, it is going to pop. I just don't know how or when or where.
Mhm.
And I think trying to guess that is
Yeah.
a waste of my time. My thoughts are better used somewhere else. But it is really important for me to share with your listeners what my philosophy is on intellectual property and copycats and things like that. I think everybody who
Mhm.
knows me knows that we deal with that on all the time, right? So I used to get really mad. And that same mentor that taught me what it meant to be a boss, he also said to me one time, he said, Jessi, if you will take your foot off their throat and let them breathe for a little bit, you might like what they say. And so he actually, I think, told me to take my high heel off of their throat, but I don't wear high heels much anymore. So, but when you don't charge in, when you don't smother somebody and you allow them an opportunity to tell you what they were thinking or how they got to where they were with a design, um, oftentimes it's not what you thought. They're not stalking you and copying you or just trying to change it. Now, sure, there's those people out there, but I really don't have time for those people because they're not my competitors by any means. But um, I realized that there's all these people that have seen stuff and like it's all repetitive, right? I mean, you see something and you'll go, well, that really looks a lot like that other thing or that other thing. And then my philosophy changed altogether. you know to understand this philosophy, you might have to be a Christian. Okay, so if you're not, you can just turn me down, and that's fine too. But if we believe that we were made in the image of our creator, then I believe that we ourselves are copies, right? And he made us creators because he was a creator himself. And there is nothing in this world that I can do that doesn't involve someone else. I didn't even make my children on my own, right? I mean, whether you're a Christian or not, you have to acknowledge that you can make nothing authentic without the help of someone else. Even growing a tree, you need a seed, right? So I just learned that people are trying to be creative. People deserve to be in a creative space. And as long as they are not attacking me, directly coming after me, I really need to not allow that to fill up
Mm.
my life and my space, which stops me from being able to create. Because if I'm focused on them, then I can't focus on my present. Like I can't focus on what's in front of me, and I can't focus on generating income and creating new things to generate income to feed all these kids and families that depend on me.
Absolutely. Do you feel like just having a basic conversation, just sharing that philosophy with others helps anytime that copycat situation comes along and it directly is shared with you? Just sharing that philosophy, does that usually help alleviate the situation?
No. And if I know that you probably expected me to say yes, but it doesn't. People don't want to hear what your philosophy is. They
Yeah.
don't really care what you know. They care about their problems and they care about their family that they need to feed. And the fact that, oh, shoot, I just copied you. And now what am I
Mm.
going to do with the 300 shirts I made? Right. And so I do feel like having a different approach is essential. I feel like going to someone, I had a conversation just today, earlier today, and instead of going, hey, I mean,
Mhm.
it was a blatant replica of ours. And it wasn't like exact words, but it was an image. The words were in the same placement. I mean, it was clearly our style. And I just messaged her and I said, hey, I want to introduce myself. I'm Jessi. I'm the owner of Cheekies. And I wanted to discuss with you one of your designs. And they're usually like, yeah, which one? And I go, it's this one. I wanted to show you something that we created last year or the year before or 5 years ago. And then I usually allow them some silence and then you can see all the little typing and the bubbles. And
Mhm.
then they're like, I didn't mean to do that. And that's normally the response is, oh my gosh, how do I fix this? I
Mhm.
myself made a huge mistake once. Everybody knows who Cowgirl Justice is, right? Great brand, awesome stuff. I decided to make a bracelet that said Hellbent and Whiskey Bound. So I sent it off and I had my designer make it, send it in. They decided to change it and they sent me back the sample. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. I don't know why that looks so cool, but it is cool. So I went ahead and made 120 dozen, right? Because that's what you do. But I did it. And then I got them in and I was like, something doesn't feel right. So I decided to do a little bit more investigation. And sure enough, the font that was used was the exact design in Cowgirl Justice's shirt, Whiskey Bit and Hellbound. And I had put it on a bracelet and I had bought a lot of them. I mean, I was scared. I was like, I'm supposed to be this example, and here I've made this major mistake, you know? So I called them and I said, hey, guess what? Here's some of that brutal, kind honesty. This is making a mistake, right? I told them, I just laid it all out there and I said, this is what I did. And their response was, I was like, do you want me to get rid of them? Do you want me to send them to you? What do you want me to do? And he goes, oh, you need to send me one so I can give it to my wife. She would love that. And then I hope you have great success with it. It was a great, great seller for us on t-shirts. We don't make bracelets. I mean, I was just floored, right? And is it always going to turn out
Mhm.
that way? No. But I'm not going to know unless I go to them. One thing I tell my employees all the time is that I know you're going to make mistakes and I'm not going to judge you by your mistakes. I'm going to judge you based off of how you handle them. Ashley, it doesn't take a somebody who knows either one of you and I
Mhm.
very deeply to know that you and I have had our mistakes in our relationships. But unless you open that door and you're willing to sit down and talk about the fact, I mean, I've had to call you and say, I really messed up. Like, I didn't say the right thing.
Mhm.
I didn't handle this right. Like, I need to be honest with you and we need to handle this. And if you can't do that with your customers, with your employees, with your spouse, your friends, your business
Mhm.
people, then you're going to continue to mess up and you're going to change your reputation. You're going to change who you are if you can't just deal with the mistakes that you make.
Oh, and that speaks volumes. That's why going back to the whole customer, the honesty and filling them up, I appreciate that so much because it's missing so many places in society today. It's really evident that's why Cheeky's Chicks are who they are and why they're so closely knit to this community that you've built. Thank you for sharing that. I want to I want to talk about the book that's coming out in just a minute.
Yeah.
Before we do, because I don't want anyone to fall off this podcast because they need to hear about
Okay.
this. But I have tradition and a bit of a lightning round. I want to ask you first before we get to the book. So you've got a gazillion and a half things on your plate. So lightning round, first thing, what keeps you motivated every day and recharged?
Okay, so motivated
Mhm.
would be providing a life for my children that I didn't have. Recharged would be my husband. And you know what? My staff. Like when I can't carry myself, they do it. And same with my husband. We have to take turns picking who gets to have a bad day. So I would say that.
How about your favorite books or podcasts that keep you educated and filled up?
If you read anything that I've ever posted on the hub, I will typically say to somebody, what was the last thing you read? I'm going to be really honest with you. Your podcast is the first one I've ever listened to. I I don't listen to podcasts, but that doesn't mean that they aren't valuable. It's just not something I've done. I only read nonfiction. My favorite book is probably Elizabeth CEO and anything by Steve Chandler. I really love The Hands Off Manager and 100 Ways to Motivate People or Motivate Yourself.
How about your favorite vacation spot or place to go to unwind?
My favorite place to go to unwind is home. I have a fabulous backyard. I have good friends to drink cold beer with. I have comfy couches. I've got chickens. I've got a garden. I mean, it really is my favorite place. I also love New Orleans, but that's mostly for the booze. Not true. I love the history there. And as a matter of fact, our new warehouse is going to have hurricane windows on it because we're just obsessed with that style. So
How about biggest fear? Is it snakes, payroll, taxes,
right.
or internet trolls?
Okay, so I would say most of the times when girls say it's that time of the month, they're talking about something different than me. Payroll is definitely it. I have a lot of employees, and payroll is important and scary to me.
How do you deal with internet trolls?
Well, we've had the couch sale trolls and we've had all kinds of trolls, but we typically handle them like human beings and we use that as an opportunity to engage. So we are blessed enough to have most of the time our trolls are attacked by our customers. Our customers will tell them to pound sand.
Customers will tell them to pound sand. I love that. Your customers have to be really excited about hearing your book. And I'm sure you've alluded to them on a number of occasions, what's coming. And I want to talk about that with you as well, because I'm not sure that even many people in the hub know about the book that's coming out. And Cheekies and the brand that you've built is just part of the story, but really it's about you and it's about a greater version of you. And even before the automotive industry,
Right.
what your life was like. Can you tell us about that book and the raw version that we're going to hear?
So, it's really funny. Anytime that you say you're going to have a book, people are like, "Oh, are you self-publishing?" It's like, no. Having a book is nothing like what I thought it was. I mean, I really did think in the past that you like wrote a book and, like that it got sent out. It's not like that. It's a really long process. I mean, I've been working on this book for over a year and it actually doesn't go in to stores until March of 2019. And my co author is an amazing bestseller author. I think he's had like 12 million books or something like that sold on the bestseller list, like total. I don't know. It's a lot. But it is a book that was originally supposed to be a business book. I was approached by a publisher, or actually an agent, who found me through Inc. magazine. And she's like, I feel like there's more to this story. And we did a short little summary. And then all these publishers like went to auction on the book, which was kind of cool because it hadn't even been written, but they were really excited about it. And I actually was signed by the very first publisher that I met and was introduced to. And her name is Beth. She's fabulous. And we, as we developed the book, it actually became more of a memoir and versus just a business book. So it's really hard to have a book about me and not have it be a business book because the business is so much a part of me, if that makes sense. And as we started writing the book, it became apparent that there was, even to me, that, and I didn't realize it until I was writing it, that so much of what has happened to me in my life or that I have made happen to me in my life has affected where the business is today. Um, and so it is very raw. It is very intimate. It really holds back very little. And that is really scary. It's scary to be vulnerable. It's scary to let people judge you and to set yourself up to be judged. But it's something that I think will make a difference in other people's lives. And I'm really excited to see. And sorry it makes my voice quiver, but I am. I'm so excited to see if I can make a difference to just anyone, even one person with that book. So
I read the intro or the proposal, if you will.
it was a summary, like a proposal. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So you were generous enough to share that with me, so I could read that, and even I had goosebumps reading that entire summary and tears just feeling what you went through in your life. I've never been through anything like that myself. I can't imagine. But I think for anyone listening, they're going to wonder, what is it? And we're not going to give it away, obviously, but
Right. Well, I think most people assume that my dad is like, 6'4" and a cowboy, and they expect to meet me, and they expect me to wear a lot of makeup and have big hair. And I've even been accused of like, does their house have rhinestones all over it inside? No. But I grew up in a very, very poor situation. And I don't mean poor like,
Mhm.
living on welfare. I mean, we lived in abandoned homes. I it was pretty bad. And I also grew up a minority. I grew up in a mixed racial parent situation. I was one of the only Caucasians in my neighborhood growing up. There was a lot of abuse in my childhood. And it isn't that the whole book is about that. It really just talks about different things in my life and mistakes that I made that got me to where I am now. But it also talks about how to get over that stuff and how to use it as a strength. So I'm excited. It every time I read it and we push farther and we do more inside of the book, I learn about myself. And I just think, oh my gosh, I hope that this person, I'm writing this for this person. I'm writing this for the girl that's leaving an MLM or that is in one. I'm writing this for a girl who is maybe has an Etsy store, or maybe a girl that is in a man's industry, or I'm writing it for a girl who isn't in business at all and she's in an unhappy marriage or an abusive relationship. So I think that even men can get stuff from it. So I'm excited to see if I can make an impact with this story.
I think there's no doubt that you certainly are going to. Have your kids, you've got 4 children, and your husband, Justin, have your kids read most of the book or kind of know the story? Because I know you've talked about how important it is for you just to have that balance and to give them a piece of life that you weren't able to experience at that age. What's it been like sharing this journey with them?
So, only one of my children has actually met my biological mom, and my husband never has. My son, my oldest son, who was kind of like an only child to me for a long time, I have taken him to some of the places that I lived so that he can see the difference. I think it's important for him to know that. And he really appreciates that. He loves knowing that I have sacrificed and chosen a different life for him. And he's very grateful. My other children, I have tried to shelter. I believe, let me just rephrase this. I believe that when you tell a child that you don't like their parent or
Mm,
their one of their parents or your ex-spouse or something, that you're telling them that you don't like part of them. So I have been very
yeah,
cautious in the way that we wrote this book to make sure that I don't hurt my children in it, or hurt anybody that they love in it. So, yet also being as honest and open as I can in the book. So, yeah, I think that each one of my children, just like each one of your guys' kids, is all different and they all deserve a different treatment and a different relationship with you.
absolutely. You could see into the future and the books come out and it's 20 years from now and the business is gone. It's sold, whatever happened to it, and it's you and your adult children now, right? You and Justin are on the porch, you're drinking a cold beer, and you're watching the chickens peck the walk. What is the one thing that you hope people remember about you and about Cheekies and about what was built and what was created?
I think the most
Mm,
inspiring thing that someone could say about me 20 years from now would be that she moved me or she made me move myself. I want people to have had an experience with me that creates a memory in their mind that they can't forget, that I allowed them to take a step
mm,
that they wouldn't have taken or to do something that they might not have done had they not met me. And So I think that would be the takeaway for me, is that, and I do have tears in my eyes. Like, it's really, really important to me that I make a difference on any level. It doesn't matter the size.
Well, I think it's definitely safe to say that you've already achieved that. And I just want to commend you and I want to thank you for other people to
Thank
listen in
you.
their earbuds wherever they're at. But through everything you do, through your customers, through the live videos, through our community at the Boutique Hub, and I know like you're going to do through this book in the future as well. So Jessi, I just want to say thanks. Thank you for being on the show. Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode. We hope that you loved it. Don't forget to hit subscribe and leave a rating and review down below for a chance to be one of our featured listeners each and every week. For more information on our spirit of community over competition and how to access complete show notes and bonus downloads from our guests, head on over to theboutiquehub.com and join the community. We'll see you next week.